Hey everyone, so welcome back to the channel. I'm here with Josh and Austin. We're going to be talking about some races. Let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on, and if you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, and everything like that to show your support. So we're going to go ahead and start off. Austin, I want to throw it at you since you're the native resident of this state. 2026 North Carolina Senate race. So to lay some background, so Tom Tillis said he's out, issues with Trump. I think he was citing his family, everything like that. So I think he's been there for at least two or three terms. So he said he's not going to run in 2026. I think I even predicted maybe on some previous ones that Roy Cooper is probably going to get in. So sure enough, he got in to the race. So Austin, tell us what you think about it, what's going on with it, and if you know anything since you're probably going to be reporting on it for the next year and a half.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty good indicator. I mean, usually midterms, especially first term midterms, tend to not go the way of the incumbent party. So there's kind of that factor in play. And plus, it's just like North Carolina's in that stage where it's really hard to tell which way it's going to go. I mean, it voted Republican, 2024 and 2020 as far as like the presidential election, but
Yep.
there is still like certain trends at play that are kind of, I think, should be kind of concerning. So, like, the big takeaway at this point, as I see it, you got the dynamic of, like I said, it's like a first term or not. Well, I guess in Trump's context, it's not a first term, but you know what I mean.
Yep.
But it's like you've got that kind of dynamic in play. And Roy Cooper was like a really popular governor. So the popular incumbent Republicans retiring, and then you've got this popular, just recently out of office governor. I would rate it as pretty likely, the Democrats will take that. I mean, I'm not really seeing any. There's not really a big bench of like Republican talent in North Carolina. I'm saying that could potentially replace Tom Tillis, especially with like big name recognition. Kind of got that record that he can kind of run on. So
Yep.
I would at this point I would kind of rate it as likely Democratic seat.
Now, and I know and Josh, you may know more about this. I know, was it Laura Trump was thinking about getting in, and then she said she's not going to get in. And so I think
Yeah,
the guy they've got running is the North Carolina Republican state chair, I think, who's like, I think he's like the big one, right? There might be some other ones that I'm not aware of, but I think he's the big one running against Cooper, right?
Yes, to answer your question.
Yeah. Okay. So now are you working that race, Josh? Or do you think you're going to
Um,
get up for it?
at the current moment, no.
Okay.
I don't know what we're gonna. I mean, I'm sure we'll play in it. They've already sent us stuff from it. Um, it's a weird looking race though right now.
How so?
Nobody really knows the landscape of what the voters are doing because it's like you get into rural North Carolina and I mean it's all Republican and then like Charlotte and Wilmington are a little on the liberal side, but it keeps turning blue for some reason on things. So it's everybody's just trying right now to figure out exactly the landscape of who all's voting and who needs to be talked to. Because if you talk to just like everyday voters, they're all Republican, but when election day comes, for some reason, North Carolina goes kind of blue.
So so being somewhat affiliated with the Democratic side, I know because you guys were talking about kind of what kind of the parties and whatnot are doing. So I know the Democratic Party chair. I know she's kind of bigger shit down there now that, I think she kind of swept all of the state seats with governor, I know attorney general and some of these other ones. But what does the Republican Party look like there? Do you know, Josh? Like, is it something that's going to put up a fight? Because I know the Democratic one's pretty mobilized. I think they're
For
fairly well organized.
like for North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I don't think the Republican Party puts up a fight. Like I said, I've knocked doors over there. I've seen a little bit of the landscape. Like I said, if you talk to a regular voter over there, it's like, oh, they're how is this place not super Republican, super red? But like I said, I can't figure out where the disconnect is on election day. Like I've been trying to figure out that mystery for probably the last two cycles. It's a weird state. It's a weird dynamic. But I have yet to see the Republican Party really step up and do anything. So that's
Yeah.
kind of where we're at.
So, Austin, do you think Do you think Roy Cooper is going to make major headway in Western North Carolina?
That'll be something that is definitely something I want to watch because like last back in November, that was like one of the real oddities of the election was like, the Republicans took North Carolina, but it was like the western regions actually trended a little bit Democratic. So like the theory at the time was that it was because of like Hurricane Helene had like depressed like turnout in like the rural areas of the state, which
Yep.
being in the area at the time, like I can definitely say like there was still so much damage around me even at election day.
Yep.
So I mean that'll definitely be something to watch. I'm not sure if it's like if it happens again, that'll be a pretty good sign. Like one of the other theories was like, okay, Asheville is kind of like it's almost like the East Coast Colorado in a sense because like
Yeah.
a lot of liberals move to Colorado now, but it's also like Asheville attracts a lot of them as far as like the East Coast. So it could be like all these like you get your young artsy liberals moving here, and then you also get your like older liberal retirees moving here. So it could be kind of like they're starting to spread outside of Asheville just demographically. But like I said, it could be Hurricane Helene. So it's definitely something to watch.
Now
Um,
that's what's it, Buncombe County that you're talking about?
Buncombe County, yeah.
Buncombe. Yeah, okay.
And one of the things to kind of watch is so like part of what like helped keep North Carolina like Republican last year, but even with that kind of like Western trend, was like a lot of historically black counties in North Carolina had like huge like shifts to like Republican voters. So that's they're kind of almost counteracting each other, and it's like if that continues, that could be something to watch because like that is, that's kind of a huge factor, especially out like Eastern North Carolina. So I mean, there's definitely a lot of factors to watch. That those are two trends I would definitely be curious to see what happens with.
So last question with the North Carolina race. I know I've been kind of reading some stuff going on in like the state, um, kind of like on the state level with I forget it was like I thought it was like some trans and culture kind of things between the governor and the state senate. Um, do you think any issues like that are gonna come into play?
Too early to tell, I think. I mean, I haven't personally heard anybody bring that up, but it's also like, I mean, I guess kind of in the circles I am in, it's like how much would you expect that to come up? But I haven't personally like on the street or anything about anything yet.
Okay, cool. So then let's go to you, Josh. So what's you say it was Tennessee 7 that's got the that was Mark Green, right? He's got
District 7, yes.
he left, right? Now,
Mhm.
I did a little research into this, and correct me if I'm wrong. Was this not what's her face? I literally just blanked on it. Who's running for governor there? Um what's her name? Who's the senator who's running for governor?
Well, she hasn't announced yet, so I don't know if she's running for governor yet.
But
But Blackburn,
Blackburn. Wasn't this her district?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't remember. I'm not big in the Middle Tennessee, so I can tell you a lot about that district because it's current and I'm involved. But the Middle Tennessee politics is a little weird.
So tell me about the district then. What's I know this is like Western Nashville, right?
Yeah, it is. It is Western
Northwest,
Nashville.
right?
Yep.
And it's like Clark.
It's
Is it Clarksville? Does that count
Yeah,
as a
it's
city
got a little
then?
bit of it's a weird district. It gets a little bit of like Williamson County where like Nashville is, and it's like
Yeah.
that's like the but like man, you get up there into Dixon County and Clarksville area, it's weird, man. It's a weird district. It's kind of
Well,
all over the
you
place.
got the military base up there too, right?
Yeah, in Clarksville, Austin Peay.
Yep. So I think the expectation is right is that Republicans are going to hold that.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a Republican seat. It'll just be a fight right now.
So how I mean how what like do you think it's going to be like a +5 Republican or I mean I thought that one's like a pretty +10 +15 Republican district.
It'd probably be about +10. Yeah, it's usually about +10.
And why do you think it's going to be competitive?
Well, the two players in it right now are going to be Lee Reeves, state representative Lee Reeves, and then state representative Jody Barrett. Those will be the two players in that race. Barrett's probably going to put some. He's got some cash, and he's got I think the right like mindset of like going for it. Um, but I think Lee Reeves will probably fare better like if Trump becomes a player in that race, I think Reeves would have a better shot at getting the Trump nod. Um, just due to the way that he votes on things.
Now, is this like anything special on those issues? Is it like a I mean, obviously not like a pro-choice, but like, like what kind of issues are going to be important in that race?
In that race, I mean, it's going to be the cookie cutter, lower taxes, less government stuff. School choice will probably come into that play. That's where I think Lee Reeves gets the Trump nod because Trump's big on the being for school choice and stuff. And Reeves voted for it in Tennessee. Now Barrett went on Twitter and was like, I do agree that school choice is great because obviously, Donald Trump said that, but
Yep.
Barrett did not. He voted against it in the state, and there's already been 2 PACs that have already pulled that against him. Like, well, you didn't vote for it here, so you do not get the right to say that you're for it now. Um,
Is he represent like a rural district?
yeah, well, so he represents Dixon County, so it's a little west of
So
Nashville there.
kind of, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Because
yeah.
I know we've talked about school choice a lot in Tennessee, especially as that was coming up, and I know Stinnett and some other people in like Blount County, I forget who the state senator was, they voted no. And from what I had heard is it's like a lot of the rural districts were kind of like, no, we're not going to do it. And more of the city urban districts were like, we're going to do it, you know?
Right.
So that's why I was just kind of curious if you're going to see that. And I think I think I posted on Twitter something about it where it was like school choice, like if I was going to try to divide that party, that's probably how I would probably try.
And it's weird because I didn't think that was gonna be like the dividing, like, and you're right, dude. Like, if someone really wanted to just like go in and drop a nuclear bomb on the Republican Party and like split them, it is school choice, which I
Yeah.
thought I was like, it'll be a big deal here in Tennessee for the year, once we got it passed. Dude, it has been that is like the threshold of like, which is weird. It's so weird how it's like it kind of sits there in that role. Like there are organizations and people that will like make it or break it with you, whether you're for or against it. And then, like I said, now that Trump is for it, people are trying to toe the line a little bit more. But it is a really weirdly controversial topic.
Well, and I think I can't remember, I think maybe we talked about this where it's like, you know, it's like or maybe we didn't talk about this, but I know I've said this before, and it's like you get one election essentially, right? So like I think this was a 2024 kind of is when they were doing the voting and everything on it. So I've kind of said like you get one election to like kind of make that like one election cycle to kind of make that like an issue, and then after that it's probably not going to be as big of an issue. So maybe after 2026 we may not see it as much because kind of it won't be as raw and as fresh. But we'll see. I know I've heard some Democrats talking like they're going to really try to throw something at this race and try to win it, but I don't think they're going to see anything on that. I don't think the enthusiasm is going to be there like it was when for the 2 seats after um, whoever the guy who ended up becoming the UN ambassador and stuff like that down in Florida. I don't think you're going to see that kind of shift, but I think it'll definitely be one to watch. Anything else on that one, Josh? You want to talk about?
On which part?
On the Tennessee congressional district 7.
For District 7. No, I think we're okay right now.
Okay.
We can move on to the next one.
All right. So you're going to be tasked with following that one. And and we'll go in next to Texas and California redistricting. So Austin, I want to see what do you think about about kind of all this happening, right? So you kind of got Newsom against Abbott and Trump. What's your take on Texas doing their mid dish or was it mid-decade redistricting?
I mean, it's I'm kind of in the I'm in the position where I feel like it's just kind of like it's kind of like a pointless almost to an extent because it's like yeah, Texas could do like a really effective gerrymander, but it's also like California can kind of counter that with also the gerrymander. Like it's possible for both states to pretty much wipe out the other side's the other side's political like representation.
Yeah.
But then it's like they're talking about like striking down the VRA districts throughout the South. They're talking about I think it's Ohio and Missouri are also talking about doing
Yep.
redistricting, but then it's like Colorado and I think Virginia could also do one, and then there's
They talked about New York doing one. I know
yeah,
that one.
I saw that one. New York, that was the other one. So it's
Yeah.
like you're kind of getting into a zero sum game where it's just like, yeah, we could all do this, but they can also do that, and then it's kind of at the point where it's like we're back to square one almost. So to me,
Yeah.
it feels kind of pointless. But then, as you were talking, I sent it in the group chat, but there was just something hit the news from NBC. So apparently, the Texas Democrats are fleeing to Illinois right now. Governor
Yeah.
Pritzker is going to like let them stay there so that like the Texas State House doesn't have quorum to like hold a vote
Yep.
on it. So it's kind of like I don't know. We're kind of reaching the point where like everybody's starting to do some like really exotic political maneuvering. So I mean
Mhm.
that's definitely going to be something interesting to watch.
Yeah, I think I've heard about that where it's like I can't remember if it was all of them or something like that, but they were going to flee, and I think they can get fined. I mean, maybe it was like $500 a day or something like that, but they can actually get like almost like arrested and brought into the state house for quorum. From what I had heard, so they were kind of like, okay, well, we're going to go to these Democratic friendly states so that they can't try to get us and all that kind of stuff. But really, kind of my take on all of it is, like you said, it don't ends up kind of being a zero sum game. I don't really quite understand why, you know, like I get why Trump is like, hey, like I want to do this, but I'm just kind of like at the end of the day, like, I mean, maybe it's smart politically because a lot of these uh these more liberal states like California and New York, they've got these independent commissions and all this other kind of stuff. So I can see politically where it's like it makes sense to where you want to bring Democrats down a level by saying like, hey, like Trump essentially Newsom has to bypass the independent redistricting committee to essentially get his gerrymander in, and he has to bring it to the people and all that kind of stuff. And some other states I think are less inclined or have less requirements. And so I could see like politically, like it kind of makes sense, like, hey, like Republicans bring Democrats down to their level, but it really doesn't like from a number standpoint in the House, it really doesn't change anything, right? Like at the end of the day, like I think even if Democrats did do their gerrymanders, they might actually get more seats than what was kind of expected. So for me, it's just like it doesn't really make any sense of why you would go about it. Um, the only thing I could see where this could come out good for Democrats is if Texas did go in and do it, and maybe Florida or Missouri kind of followed through. I could see, and say California and New York does it as well. I could see it then kind of being something where like someone's going to sue somebody and then it go up to the Supreme Court. Now, typically, from what I've read and researched into this, is typically the Supreme Court doesn't want to get involved in political matters. And so they've always kind of declined to hear a lot of these gerrymandering cases. But I think it could be interesting, almost kind of like, hey, like this is how far and extreme it's gotten to where maybe new standards might be put in place that kind of brings it, kind of put some guardrails. Now, the only downside with that is that you're taking your chance at a Supreme Court that's kind of controlled by Republicans. So you may not get exactly what you want out of it. So I think there's a lot of questions in there, and I've already I think it's the national. I think it's the NDRCC or something. It's actually led by Eric Holder. When they actually put up a map of like, here's all the states that they're going to contest redistricting and everything like that before all this Texas thing came out, and they didn't list Texas. And I was like, you're an idiot if you do not put Texas in there. And then sure enough, this comes out, and I'm just like, I'm like, it just shows that it's all politics, and they're not trying to like, trying to make things fair or like actually try to win on the point and do good government. And when I saw that he was out there doing that, I was like, you guys aren't smart. Like you guys just don't have any strategy. There's no cohesion or anything. Austin, I saw you came off mute. Do you have anything you want to say to that?
In terms of like the general like thing,
Yeah,
or
just like what do you think like is going to be the outcome of this these kind of like gerrymandering attacks in the states? Like, do
I
you think,
feel like
this is going to escalate up and skim to the top, or what do you think is going to happen?
I could definitely see well, since like the Republicans controlled the Supreme Court, it would make sense to try to force it up. But it's also like I think there is kind of like a broader point to be made. I'm like if you're a state that's, say, like Virginia is probably the best example of this, like the current breakdown on like congressional seats to like how the state votes, pretty close to accurate. I think Virginia's usually kind of like a 53-47 kind of state,
Yep.
and like the congressional districts are basically kind of on the part of that. I think Virginia has like, what is it, like 13 now? Was it 13 or is it 11? I can't remember.
I
Like
don't
something like that. So it's like if it's 11, it's like 5-6 or something like that. So I mean,
know.
it's fairly reasonable for like where the population votes. But it's like if you start in these gerrymanders where like, say, like even in California, which is basically like a 60-40 state, if you suddenly get a situation where like Republicans only have one seat and Democrats have like 50, what is it, like 55 or 54?
Yeah, it's like 50, it'd be like 53 to 51 or 53 to like 1 or something like that. Something
Yeah.
outrageous.
And it's like that's going to be extremely destabilizing, and like it's a zero sum game, but it's also just like you're reaching a point where like you're gonna have multiple states that are basically just locking out the other party, and like I can definitely see that doing a lot of damage to like legitimacy in terms of, like, institutions and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Josh, you got anything to comment on this? I know you've kind of delved in a little bit with some Texas elections. What's kind of your what do you think is going to happen with these two with Texas and say California? And do you think that what's kind of your general viewpoint on this mid decade redistricting?
Dude, it's weird. I think Austin. I don't really have too much to add 'cause I think Austin hit the good points of it. Um, I just don't know, man, dude. Like redistricting in this climate and environment right now is, but I also do think it was a little bit needed. So we'll kind of see how it plays out. Don't really have a full grasp on what it will look like.
So how is it needed? Like what when you say it's needed, like what's needed?
Some of them districts, dude, in Texas were getting, they started flipping really badly, um, kind of over the course since 2018. And then there's some districts that I think needed a little bit of a shakeup because they just, I mean, it just had been, one way or the other for a minute. So I'm excited to kind of see how hopefully changes over for the better. Um, it's just weird, man, dude, when you get those Austin and San Antonio districts in there, it's tough.
Well, I saw one. I mean, and maybe this is kind of what you're saying is like, I mean, there are some districts in there. I think it was like one from like Austin to San Antonio, and it was like basically alongside the highway, and it's like some of these weird districts where they're like really trying to like make it work so that they can get uh, uh, a Democratic seat in there, or there's probably like some Hispanic populations or something like that. And so like I get that, but that's why I'm like, maybe Democrats are going to be thinking like, okay, like depending on what lawsuit they bring in, they might get rid of some of that bullshit, right? So I think there's the one, I can't remember if it came out of a lawsuit, but it's like, you can't have your district go over water, right? It's got to be like, connected by land. So you might see something like that, but you know, it's just one of those where it's like you never know what you're going to get. And I think if anything, it just kind of, I think Democrats should stay out of it, even if Texas gets it. And I think they should stay out of it and just like try to push them in court because I think if they do, try to contest it, they're going to lose, kind of the high ground, the moral high ground on that. But let's go to the Michigan Senate. So I forget what's his name, but he was there, I think, for about 2 terms, and he's now leaving. Josh, are you working on that one at all?
Not at the moment. If we do, it'll be, I'd say, probably February next year when I hear
Okay.
hear about it. Because that's what is that next year? That election has to be next year, isn't it?
Yeah, that's gonna be 2026.
Yeah, that'll be 26. You're right. So yeah,
Do you
we'll
think do you
see.
think that do you think that Republicans could pick that
So,
one up, or how do you feel it's gonna go?
oh gosh, who's the other Michigan senator? It's
Slotkin.
lady Slotkin.
Yeah.
Is it Slotkin?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Alicia Slotkin. So you got Democrat already there. Probably not. That's a tough. Michigan's weird, man. They've made some good grounds in their state house and stuff, and they've got a couple of good Congress members that are Republican. But as a whole, that is just a bear to try to get over the hump of.
So
And like I said, I worked on
how
the
is it
last Senate
weird?
race. What?
How's it weird?
So I worked on the last Senate race when I believe it was Mike Rogers who was going against Slotkin, because I was like that was, I guess that would have been last year. That feels like last year, yeah, or whenever Trump, yeah. So during that Trump election stuff, um, we were up there for. I went on a few deployments up there, and it's really weird because, like, if you come around here in my area of East Tennessee, or even Knoxville, really, it's like everything is pretty much Republican. When you get up there to Michigan or like even Wisconsin, like those battleground states, I'm not joking. Like you can knock a door in a nice upscale rich neighborhood, and it'd be like one person be like the most Republican conservative you've ever met, and I mean 2 feet next to his door, the next house is, and it's like the most radical left liberal you'll ever meet. It is really a coin flip up there. So I feel like it's going to stay blue right now. I mean, I'm going to probably work on it. So probably see, probably will give it my best try to get a Republican across the finish line there. But that is a tough district. Those are tough districts up there.
What do you think, Austin? How do you think the Michigan Senate's going to go? Do you think that's going to be a Democratic hold, or do you think that could be flipped?
I really don't know that much about the dynamics up there. I would definitely say, as far as just like generic midterm conditions usually go, I would kind of imagine it would go Democratic, but I don't know enough comment on that.
What do you think? Do you think Gaza is going to be an issue up there, especially around Dearborn? I know I hear people talking about that a lot, and I thought that was kind of like I thought Trump had made some headway in there, but I mean, obviously things have changed since then. But I didn't know if that's something that you think, will kind of shift back, or maybe we'll stay with Trump. Um, I'm still trying to find out kind of how the Muslim American vote is going to kind of swing. What do you think?
Well, it definitely swung massively for Trump last year because he was promising a Gaza ceasefire.
Yep.
So I mean, that I could definitely see that being an issue in 2026, because it really depends. I mean, there could be one of the big things that happened last year too is there was also a huge increase in third party support. So
Yep.
plausible you could see a huge jump in third party support, as they just don't support either party. So I mean, that could be kind of like a, kind of like the, what do you call it, the what do you call it, black horse conditions.
Yeah. Well, I think their governor, I think it was the Detroit mayor, is running as an independent for governor. And so you have like an independent, and a Democrat, and then you'll have a Republican. And so I don't like I think you could see something weird on that level, but I think for the Senate, I think you're definitely going to have like a Republican and Democrat. And I just don't know. And I think it's one of those states, kind of like with what Josh is saying, is it's and knowing some people up there and having some ties up there. I mean, it's different, and it's like weird. It's like a weird state to really kind of pinned down, because you've got a lot of I think they still have like a pretty robust labor union group and interest groups up there, and so that kind of swings, whether or not they're going to be, a Democrat or Republican and things like that. So I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm we'll see what happens. So with Virginia, so Austin, I know you still have some ties to Virginia. Uh, is what's her name? The CIA operative, or Spanberger. You think she's going to end up running away with this one?
Probably. So Virginia politics are almost kind of consistent in a lot of ways, or at least have been for the last several decades. Usually, so the way our 4-year terms for governors work out, it's all we always hold the elections after the presidential election.
Yep.
And like 2021, no, not 2021. It was, I think it was 2017 was the first time, or was it 2017, or was it 20? I think 2013 was the first time that like that chain had been broken, in the sense that, like, usually it's always the opposite party of the party in the White House that wins the governor's race in Virginia. Like, that's always pretty much been the case. So 2013 was like the first time the Democrats were able to like win, despite winning the election the previous year. So that's usually kind of how it goes. But then you've also, like, in terms of like knowing who's kind of the likely candidates for both sides. So Spanberger tends to get a lot of like moderate Republican appeal, especially in like her district. So that plays really well in Virginia because like we've got you got like the Richmond suburbs. You kind of still got some of the old like dynamics in Northern Virginia where you got like a lot of like national security kind of like tops that
Yep.
kind of more at home with that kind of politician.
What counties are those? Because those are the big ones, right? Where it's like,
And like Nova.
yeah,
So it's like Fairfax,
Fairfax.
Arlington, which I
Yep.
think is the city, not a county, and then there's some others. But it's also like Nova's just gotten so big, like the counties that are considered part of it have kind of like expanded.
Yep.
But the most likely Republican candidate is Winsome Sears, and it's just yeah, it just feels like it just feels like pandering. Like she's not her basically like just to be brutally honest about it, their whole shtick with her was just like, oh, it's a black woman that loves guns. Like, yeah, and it's like
Hmm.
that's I'm sorry, that just does not. People aren't dumb. They can kind of see through that and kind of tell. It's like there's not really a whole lot of substance. It's more of kind of like to me, it always felt like they were trying to do like a Trumpian bit, but it doesn't work in this context because it's like you gotta yeah, cool. It looks cool when you make like the tweet about it, but it's also just like if you're a normal person, you're going to vote, you're like, I really don't care. I'm more concerned about like, okay, what are or one of my process is going to be like, what is this like? And it's just like, it to me, it always felt like a really lame attempt at pandering, and like,
Well, and this is also she's running with the party that's all about anti woke and non-identity and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, it's a black woman who likes guns, and it's
yeah,
like you're kind of doing the same thing the Democrats are doing, you know?
yeah, it just doesn't really catch that appeal. And then two, it's been a while since I've like really paid attention to Virginia politics because I've lived in North Carolina for like a couple of years now, so it's like from what I remember happening back then, it was just like it was pretty much like you said. It was just like solely like I'm anti woke, and it's like okay, that's cool, but it's like you gotta kind of have a little bit more than just that. And it's also
Yeah,
just like it's not. This was something you could really run on the Biden years because it was
yeah,
just so back then. It was just so in your face, and it's kind of like there's been a little bit of a culture shift where that's kind of been pushed back on now. So it's kind of like kind of like you can be a one trick pony, but once your one trick is kind of no longer relevant, then kind of game over in a sense.
yeah. Well, that was kind of Youngkin's thing, right?
Yeah,
He kind of really led into the culture stuff with Biden, and I think he was really like kind of like the last one in a while who was really kind of like smart about like how he has to win Virginia, and
yeah.
obviously he won. And I think it was like a lot of it was like on like he was really kind of riding the waves on the cultural stuff in schools and all that kind of stuff that was happening in Nova, like you were talking about.
He's like and Youngkin was like a really effective. Like he's kind of I don't want to say like old school Republican, but he's kind of of that more Virginia tradition where he can kind of like he knows how to play the game, so to speak.
Yep.
But so I mean, it was effective, and then they kind of picked Winston Sears. I think it's kind of like a sop to like certain elements, and then it's also just like, oh yeah, we'll just do that. Okay, cool. We'll pair them together. That'll be fine. And two, I kind of get it at the time because it was not that long after. Because like back around 2021, besides like the school stuff, like guns were still kind of like a big issue then because there was like a bunch of stuff happening in Virginia
Yeah.
from
The
like
shootings and stuff.
I think it was like 2018 to like 2021. There was like there were several major protests in like Richmond and stuff. I was still in college at the time. I remember there was like something big. I think early 2020, like right before COVID, there was like a big protest in Richmond. So I mean, like that was kind of probably another factor. They're like, okay, we'll tap into that. But it's like Virginia is just so different now to even what it was a couple of years ago. Like it really blows my mind when I go back and visit because it's just like you can tell like things have changed a lot. So there's that, and it's just like it just feels tired. It's just like it's of a different era. It's not really relevant to like the current situation.
Yeah.
I know like I'm very pro gun, like I get it, but it's just like I said, it's like you can't run on vibes in this context, especially with this state. That's just not a state it really works in.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Josh? What do you think about the Virginia governor race? Josh.
Which one?
The Virginia governor's race. So like do you think like is that kind of a shoe in for the Republicans? What's
Should
your perspective on it?
I mean, it's never a shoe in. I worked on Youngkin's race. That was an Axiom race back when I was with them. Um, so I remember doing Youngkin's race a little bit. Uh, it's Virginia's just weird, dude. I mean, like Austin said, I'll be honest, I haven't. But now, for Virginia governors, do they get? They can only ever run once, can't they? I
Yeah,
don't remember.
yeah, they're just one, right?
Yeah, it's just like a one term, which is really weird, honestly.
Was it
But
Now
they
they could
get?
rerun, right? But they can only run one, and then they have to wait, and then they can run another one, right?
as of the last time I checked, yes. Although nobody's done that, so it's
But they
kind of
only get 4 years, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
like a 1 4 year term. And in theory, you can run again. I don't know if anybody's ever
Oh,
attempted
dude,
that.
I don't know. Dude, Virginia's weird. Did y'all elect a new governor just every damn day anymore?
Wait till you find out like the state house stuff. It gets even weirder.
yeah,
Yeah, I've heard stories. Um, it is just a weird state, man. That is wild. But I think Republicans should have a little bit of an easier path, just because I think with everything that happened with Youngkin and that, I think it should be. I think it'll be the Republicans to lose, but I won't say it's a shoe-in because it never is with Virginia.
yeah. Now, one that I think could be kind of interesting is what about the New Jersey race? Do you know anything about that one? Like, I know Republicans think they might win the governor in New Jersey. Do you think they got a shot there, Josh?
I don't know. I haven't even. I'll be honest with you. I haven't even looked at that race yet, dude. I've been
Oh,
so
really?
busy. I've been so busy with Tennessee State stuff and our federal stuff down here. But I just have not had time to take a look at New Jersey yet. If we get involved in that, like I will get more information. But I have not had the time.
What do you think, Austin? You think anything interesting going to come out of that one?
Uh, if
Because I know the big, I guess maybe like let me like the landscape, right? So everyone saw obviously, and I think you talked about this previously, Austin, is like huge shifts, especially in the New York metro, New York, New Jersey swung massively towards Trump. Um, do you think that you're gonna see? I think people are thinking that okay, like there's a lot of this like anti-establishment, kind of more bluer places kind of going red. So they think maybe New Jersey's going to be a more competitive. And I think previously there was some history about it, like back in like the 60s or 80s or something like that, with New Jersey being competitive. So I think where the question really kind of comes from is people think, is that really going to keep building, or are we going to have to swing back towards kind of the mean?
yeah, I mean, if it does stay really competitive, because they had a governor's race a couple of years ago or something like that that was really competitive, and so it's like okay, if that happens again, then yeah, that would be kind of a sign that New Jersey's coming more in play. It's becoming a swing state, and there was articles came out in like November arguing like yeah, New Jersey's a swing state now, but it's
Yep.
like you kind of got to balance that with like okay, like was that just a function of like the Biden administration just being so unpopular and like the whole national environment the way it was by the end of it? So it's like, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. If it happens again, then yeah, I would fully be willing to say like New Jersey's now a swing state. But it's like if it kind of goes back, it'll be like okay, that was more just everything was just so bad in 2023 and 2024 that like people were like, okay, let's give something else a chance.
Yeah. I mean, I think my kind of I don't want to say it's a hot take, but I don't think it's gonna go like I think a lot of that shift to the right was just kind of an anomaly. And a lot of frustration from Biden and the Democrats and the anti-establishment and all this kind of stuff coming to where I think you're gonna see it swing back to the mean. Like I just don't like I don't I honestly haven't looked at who's running on the Republican side, but I just don't think you're going to see the results that people think for New Jersey. I mean, New Jersey and I think like New York, again, like very, like, I think, I don't want to say strongholds, but very solid of like, Democrats. So like, I don't think I could see anything. I don't see, especially with an anti-Trump kind of momentum building. I don't think you're going to see anything change in that. But if yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Um, so we'll one last question to each one of you before we end it here, or actually two questions and we'll start off with you, Austin, and then we'll end here with Josh. What race are you most interested in, and you think is going to be like kind of a good indicator of what's coming on, and then who has the momentum, Democrats or Republicans?
In terms of like this year's elections or next year's?
2025 leading into 2026.
Um, I will be very interested to see. We just talked about New Jersey and Virginia will be very interesting to watch because that'll kind of, they're both kind of usually bellwethers in a sense.
Yep.
But that'll be interesting for this year. Next year, I really can't narrow it down next year. I think my baseline up until recently was I feel like it'll be like a replay of 2018, but now that's just kind of I'm not sure. It could, so we'll kind of see on that. As far as momentum, it did come out recently like Democrats are leading in like registered voters again. So I mean, by that metric, I would say them. But it's also just like you also got to look at like party favorability right now, and just they're just so it's weird because they're like now they're leading in registrations again, but like their party favorability is just so
Yeah,
historically
it's really
low.
low.
So it's kind of like I don't know. It could just be like like boomers still kind of doing stuff, but it's just I don't know.
Okay. All right, Josh, what race are you watching the most? And then who has the momentum going into 2025 and 2026?
Any race like countrywide or like
Yeah,
what?
countrywide, if there's something in Oregon that's super interesting, like what's going on?
Oh man, race I'm looking the most at right now. Um, it's a tough one. Um, Gotta say that North Carolina race probably has my biggest attention at the moment, and will continue to do so until I get a little more clarity on it. Um, don't really know who the front runner is there, but if you want to take my guess on futuristically, I do think JD Vance will be the front runner for presidential elect in 28.
Yeah. So speaking of JD Vance, and I'm glad you went there. I'll put my picks in. The race that I'm going to be watching the most, it's not a 2025, it's going to be a 2026. I'm curious what's going to happen in the 2026. I guess it's a special election in Ohio, for Senate. I'm curious to see what's going to happen there, and it's really just kind of Ohio in general, like governor and then Senate. I saw, and I think I put an article in the group chat. Chuck Schumer's trying to get Sherrod Brown to run for the Senate and everything like that. So I think that will be an interesting one because I think if now Chuck Schumer's old as shit, and he probably can't even wipe his ass anymore. But I think putting Sherrod Brown on the ballot would be the best way to divert resources to Ohio and maybe open up some other states. So I think that's going to be a race that I'm going to watch, and just really just Sherrod Brown in general, of whether he's going governor or whether he's going to go Senate. I know you've got Vivek Ramaswamy in there, and so I think that'll kind of be interesting. So that's the race that I'm going to watch. And I think overall, I think I would say Democrats have an advantage, but I would say it's much smaller. You might get +1, +2 out of it. I don't think you're going to see a landslide coming in. Um, but I stranger things have happened, but I don't think given right now, I don't think we're going to see anything. I think if anything, Democrats are probably going to win maybe a little bit more just because I think a lot of the Republican base, um, they're just not going to turn out. Trump's not going to be on the ballot. I think there's going to be a lot of this Republican infighting over the Epstein files and other stuff. So I think Republican or Democrats may have an advantage, but it's not an advantage that they've created. So that's where I stand on all this. And any last things before we go ahead and end it? Okay, let's end it here. All right, thanks, guys.
Already going to end it in 3, 2, 1.